Hey folks, welcome back to another TWiP Pro photo critique session. We're in critique session number 31.
This is TWiP.
Welcome back to This Week in Photo. I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Troy Miller. We're going to step through some of the latest submissions to the TWiP Pro photo critique topic within our TWiP Pro community. Should be pretty interesting. Lots of cool submissions. So congratulations to all the folks who submitted. There's some fantastic work in there. Troy Miller, you've been poking around in there.
Yep.
Pretty nice, huh? People are crushing it.
Yeah, every time there's more images than we've ever had, and they're all really good. So, as we talked in our green room, we're going to have to be a little concise on these.
Yeah. We're definitely going to have to cut down the rhetoric, like what we're doing right now, in order to get through all these images. But in all seriousness, great work, everyone. Everyone did a fantastic job, and we're going to. As we've done, 30 times so far, we're going to do our best to give you substantive, constructive criticism, and that's your superpower, right, Troy Miller? The constructive criticism. Yeah. The what did you call that? The shit sandwich. Exactly, that's what it is. Is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a shit sandwich because there's the bread, which is a compliment,
yeah,
and then
the critique,
and then another slice of bread, which is, but keep up the good work. Right?
But it's true. It's true.
It's true. We used to do that all the time. I love it. Hey, that was really good, and thank you for submitting. But insert negativity. But keep up the good work. Yeah. But no.
Now I can't critique it like myself anymore. I can't do that.
No, I just exposed your shit, right? So now
that's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, cool, man. Well, let's dive in. Like I said, we've got lots to go through. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so let me scroll down and find the latest one. Okay, so we're going to start with this one. It's from Stephen Scharf. Steve and I met in person down in Pleasanton, California, a couple days ago. We had lunch down there and shot the breeze. All right, here we go. What do you think of this one?
What is this? How do you pronounce that?
This is I'm going to go with Concholas.
Concholas B. Oh, for bar, yeah. I dig it. I really do. There's the bread. The first there. No.
Is this rye bread or white?
Yeah. So every time I look at an image, I mean, literally the first thing I do is I try to just sort of suck it all in and look at it and say, what's the story here? What do I like? What feels really good? And then of course my brain naturally goes to the things that I wish that I could fix. Mm-hmm. So for me, I love the fact that it's got this nice shadow coming across the top, focuses our attention on this guy walking out of the bar. I like the fact that his hand is out. I'm not really sure what he's doing. Is he talking? Is he, motioning to something? I like the intention to the crop, the vertical line on the right there at that Corona extra sign. I love that. I do wish that we had his feet in there. I think that would really help tell the story, but I'm okay with that. It creates a little tension. And then maybe burn down the right-hand side right below the C, that door that's there. Mm-hmm. It is bright. Maybe take that down a little bit so it's not distracting our attention too much. But other than that, I mean, I understand he cropped for the name. So it's a great shot. I mean, I love it. I think it's really colorful and tells a good story.
Yeah, no, I love it too. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. And just for the edification of the folks that are watching, you and I have decided to sort of alternate weight on critiquing these images so that we can make sure we get through all of them. And this was the first one that you took. So, cool. Good work, Stephen Scharf. All right, so let's move on. And next one here is from Esteban Gil, The Groom and His Guys, or a new HBO show coming out. Oh, you see, you should have took this one. This is a wedding shot. I'm gonna let you go on this one. This is wedding. You could give more substantive feedback than I could.
I did ask you in the beginning, and you said no.
Whatever.
Not throwing you into the bus or anything.
Yeah. I like the bus.
I love the lighting. I love the lighting style and everything in this. I do struggle a little bit though with, you've got, one guy looking at you on the far left, the guy just immediately over his shoulder, his right, camera left, is not looking at the camera. The guy on in the middle right is hidden behind his head, and the other guy looks a little disinterested. So, you got a light set up, and you set up this pose and everything. You need to get those guys looking at you, and then this just would be magnitudes better. As far as a total image, but as a style, I think it's killer. Yeah. I think it's
cinematic. It's cinematic.
Yeah. Really well done. I do think the background is burned down a little heavy. And flat. I think that, it doesn't need to go that far, because you're losing the guys, and they're really important. They're an important part of the day, like they're his best friends or college guys or whatever. So you need to make sure they don't disappear.
Yeah. You know what I thought you were going to comment on?
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Should have been black and white.
No, the specs on the groom's jacket on the side of his jacket. See that on his collar and on his shoulder and all that. Well, those would have been easily cleaned up, right?
Those were more minor. Those were more minor. I think that any time that I'm photographing a couple or I'm doing a wedding or anything, I really try hard to make sure that everybody's face is at me, and if they're not at me, then they're all doing something that's distractive. Yeah.
Very nice. I love this look, though. Seriously, I wonder. Yeah, Esteban, if you could share with us what the this is Esteban. Yeah, this is Esteban. Esteban, if you could share with us what your post-processing technique was for this, I would love to understand that. Do you think you could recreate this and capture one try?
Sure.
Yeah, it's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's an off-camera strobe lighting the groom, and then the guys are in the back. The light falls off on them, and you could just burn that down.
Yeah.
Or underexpose them significantly, but I'm guessing that it's a little bit of both.
Well, here's another one from Esteban Gil we're going to talk about here. So I'm digging this one, so I'll take this one. I love any shot that is out of the ordinary and makes you look at it twice, plus with the added simplicity of this only having, 3 or 4 elements in it. You got the people, you got the pier, you got the boats, and what I assume would be water that those boats are in. But it is graphically stunning, and it makes me want to look at it. I like the offsetness, because you could have easily put the pier straight down the middle of the frame and had the boats on either side and had sort of a level of symmetry with 4 boats on the left, 4 boats on the right, and people in the middle. But Esteban chose to move the pier off to the right, make it perfectly vertical, shoot with the drone straight down on them, and let the image be informed by the graphical shapes and the lighting on the subjects. So I'm a big fan of this one. What did you think, Troy?
No, I totally agree. My only suggestion is we don't need all that space on the far left. And just a little bit, maybe half of it. But everything that you said about the graphical elements and stuff is really nice. When I first saw this one come up, I'm like, oh, I wish that was my shot.
Well, you're Mr. I don't shoot with drones at weddings, right?
I don't.
This is an engagement shoot. No. Esteban is a wedding shooter, right?
No, I don't think the time to do it. It just takes too much time.
Okay. Right.
But it's really nice, really well done. Very good intentional work.
Yeah, very nice. Very good, Esteban. Thank you for submitting 2 awesome images. Very cool. All right, we're going to move on here. We're clipping. We're moving right along. This one's from Mark Dabkey, Memorial Stadium. He shot another drone shot with a Phantom 4. All right, look at this.
Light, yeah. Late shot. Yeah, that's cool. That's a really neat angle to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows I love the fact that we're able to see everything lit so well, and if you would have done it like late at night, you wouldn't have that same sort of sense of depth because you can still see some of the landscape. I don't think we need as much of that sky in there.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
Yeah, because it really, it's a third of the image.
Yeah.
Right, and if it's not adding to the image, there's no amazing clouds or amazing sunset colors in there. So I would say, let's just clip that and bring that down. But other than that, I think this is extremely well executed. Maybe burn down some of the highlights in the facing wall of the stadium, just to get us a little more detail in there. Mm-hmm. But I know you probably don't have a whole lot of latitude in that.
Well, I mean, he's shooting RAW, so I would assume he's shooting RAW with a Phantom 4 Pro. So yeah, he's probably got data in there. All right, well,
yeah.
Excellent. Moving right along. All right, the next one up. All right, so we've got Peter Lovedshin here, our good friend, and he submitted 4 images that I could see in here. What should we do? What do you think, Troy?
Well, I think 4 is too many, and I think that we should use. I think what we should do is we should just remove his Italy shots.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, so he's got 2 Italy shots in here, and 2 and a New York shot and a Spain shot. So we'll do Spain and New York and forego Italy for now.
Right. Because he definitely has better work than what he's posting from Italy. I think that was a Hail Mary.
And you know him personally, so you can say that.
That's true. That's true.
Some people don't think, well, Trey's harsh, man. Jeez.
I was standing behind him when he started posting some of these. I'm like, not that one. That one's not any good. That one's really good. But he's been going back through his work. This is a guy who goes on vacation and, travels, like Southeast Asia and goes all over and shoots like 30, 40,000 images and then spends the next 3 years trying to, go through them.
Oh, I love that. What a dream. All right, so I'm pulling up this Spain shot of this sphere. What do you think?
I think it's awesome. I think it's your turn, though.
Is it my turn? Didn't I just talk about the boats?
And then I talked about the drone shot of the stadium.
Oh, you did talk about it? Clearly, I need more coffee today. So I like this one. I like the graphical elements of this one. I was wanting to talk about this one because it's like you and I talk about when we do these critiques a lot. It's the simplicity and graphical elements rule, and if you have an obvious subject, in this case, it's the sphere. So you've got these sort of lines and graphical elements at the bottom, and then a background. The thing that drew me to this image that I think is really cool, Peter, is I'm guessing those pigeon droppings on the top of the sphere here, because I can see the spikes up there that aren't working to keep the pigeons away. But that's cool, and that adds to it as well. Without that, you'd have to look closely to be like, okay, what is this and what's the size of this? But knowing that they're pigeon droppings, ironically, on top of the sphere gives you a sense of scale of how big this thing is. The other thing is, I found this really interesting, is his processing. So it looks like he intentionally added a bunch of grain to it. I think maybe a little bit heavy-handed on the vignette around there, on the edges. Probably could have backed that off a click or two. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I do dig the grain in there because I know it feels like it was intentional to sort of bring out the look of this thing. Otherwise, really, really cool image. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. No, I feel the same way about all of that. This is a really neat study in shape and, graphical elements that are being combined in a way that's simple, yet they all complement each other. You got the hash of the lattice work, you've got the vertical and horizontal lines of the brickwork, that angle, and then you got this nice sphere, balancing all those. And it's in a nice rule of thirds, the sphere. So there's a lot of intention in this element. And I think that this is great. This could hang big.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see those pigeon droppings big, Peter. Come on. Good job. All right, so we got another one from Peter here.
We're going to skip his Italy one.
Yep, and we're going to go straight to New York. All right, so this was with his Sony infrared at 10 millimeter with that Voigtlander.
Yeah.
That's.
I don't know these buildings. I don't know which buildings they are. If that's somehow significant to this location, but this kind of harkens back to the previous image where, it's a lot of shape and line, and it really keeps your mind interested. You look around a lot, and the leading line in the lower left-hand corner leads you up to that negative space. A negative space makes you fall to the right, and the buildings are leading you back into that negative space.
Yeah.
I think it's killer. I think, and I wish, and I hope, and I don't think that's inappropriate, but throw a bird in there in that negative space. Just one thing to just make your eye really just look at it.
Oh yeah,
and,
or a jet. Yeah. Well, I would say a jet, but if this is, I don't know where this is in New York either. But if it's the Freedom Tower, you probably wouldn't want to put a jet in there. But yeah, maybe a bird.
Right. But that's what I was going to say. Like birds are very prevalent in New York, so that would be okay, right? Like you could throw a bird in there; it seemed totally natural and still be in context of the image. So. Yeah, I think this is an image that Peter should work on a little bit. Bring those highlights up because he tends to mute those a little bit. And I think this would be a good image comp image.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, anything unusual, right? I mean, we got a skyscraper shooting directly out of the right-hand side of the frame, right? That's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, so you go abstract or whatever. All right, folks, before we continue, I wanted to, before we started the show, Troy, you and I, we were talking about some ways that we can make the critique better, right, and more substantive, and make the criticisms, the constructive criticisms a little better. And one of the ways that we talked about was having a topic, like we did before. We tried this once before on critiques, but we're going to bring it back and add a topic to next week's critique that the submitters will have to comply to in order for us to critique their image. And we came up with, Troy Miller,
shallow depth of field.
Shallow depth of field, and to define that for the people who may not know what that is. What is shallow depth of field?
Well, where whatever your subject is, wherever the focus is, it should be soft in the foreground, the middle, and then the background. And the idea is that the shallow depth of field brings attention by your perceived focus where your subject is. And the reason that we chose that was we thought, if we just pick an arbitrary theme, there's many photographers in the group that may not fit their style, right? Like their way of shooting. And so, but shallow depth of field fits everybody, whether you're shooting commercial or you're shooting portraits or you're shooting models or you're shooting weddings. Shallow depth of field can be used in everything.
Yeah.
So that way everybody can kind of do their thing, but skew to shallow depth of field.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a big fan of shallow depth of field. I think the world looks better shallow. It's already shallow. I think the world looks better shallow and with a little bit of clarity added and slightly saturated.
And black and white.
And black and white. Which brings us to our next image. I'm going to bring this next one up on the screen. This is from Howard Yermish. I got to read this description. I know we said we were going to read many of them. Howard says, I may have rejected Troy Miller's suggestions for black and white conversion before, but I thought that this image, low clouds, high tide, might be a good opportunity for black and white. And by the time the next critique rolls around, it will have been the aforementioned 2 weeks. Okay, so I know it's my turn to critique this one, but I want to put this one on you because he mentioned you specifically, and you are the Mr. Everything Needs to Be Black and White guy. So
not everything, just most things.
Just most. If you could have Geordie LaForge's glasses, you would tune them to only see black and white. Right?
I would. Yeah, I would. I absolutely would.
I love it. I would too. I would tune mine to see only infrared. So
yeah. No, I dig this image, and I think that those clouds coming in and the mountains and the shapes, and I think that is perfect for black and white. And that's one of the reasons I love black and white so much, is it removes all that distracting color. In this case, I think this is probably in one of the same locations he shot before. So you got that red foreground and those rocks. So because there's no color there, it's not really adding to this image. So that foreground, I think we could crop it just to leave enough of that shoreline in, just so we know where the rocks, if it were, but really focus on that upper half of the image, which is the mountains and that cloud band coming through there, which is, perfect for black and white. So I love it. I would just crop that bottom off a little bit.
I dig it too. Yeah, I like it too. It's got a very otherworldly, other planetary look to it. What I thought you were going to say, honestly, was the highlights. I thought you were going to call attention to the highlights of is that either snow or water or ice back there, because there's very little detail in that middle ground where I mean, not so much the clouds because they don't really need any detail, but there's no detail in the water or ice or snow area. What do you say about that?
Well, I think that in the black and white, in the sort of the style that he's done this image in, is that something contrasty is okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if it goes paper white, that's okay. If it's a highlight reflection, that's okay. The clouds have detail. The sky in the background has detail. I think that's an important element. I mean, if it doesn't look pure white to me, it looks like it's brighter. And I'm okay with that because it's a graphical element. This image becomes very graphic in the sense that you have all these shapes and forms, and it doesn't bother me. There's not detail that I'm searching for in there.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you, Howard, for submitting this. Very nice image. See, like we were saying, man, like the game is, the quality of the game has been upped, right? I mean, people are really doing a great job on these shots. All right, I'm going to pull up the next one here. This is from Kai Gradert. Please correct me and tell me how to pronounce your last name. Gradert or Gradert? Or Grader, or something like that. All right, August is one of the favorite times of the year to go out and shoot. This is a Milky Way shot. Let's bring this one up. And you are experienced at shooting the Milky Way, right?
Yeah, I've shot it a bunch of times. It's fun. It's always fun.
All right, I think we should both critique this one. I'll give it a few thoughts first. So I'm looking at it. I love the graphical elements of the Joshua trees in shadow in the foreground. I'm a big fan of Joshua trees. I think they are aliens. To be honest with you, I'm pretty sure they're aliens. Have you ever seen a Joshua tree? That ain't natural. But I'm a big fan of the Joshua trees in the foreground. I love those, and the cacti in the background. The Milky Way itself, I'm no Milky Way shooter. I am just learning how to shoot the Milky Way, so I'm not 100% qualified to judge this one, but I'll judge it as a viewer would. And looking at it from a viewer standpoint and a photographer, I see some noise in the sky there. So I would have either hopefully taken that out if possible, or darkened the sky a little bit to maybe suppress that a little bit more. The Milky Way is fantastic, and it is very colorful. I mean, you can make it very colorful. So I want to see that pop a little bit more, especially in contrast with the either early morning or magic hour sun that's either coming up or going down. I'm assuming it's going down because Joshua trees are only prevalent in California. So in the Death Valley area, that's where I saw them at. I really dig, and I want to know, was this in the Perseids or one of the meteor showers? Because that's a whole lot of streaks in there for just a couple of shooting stars. So this looks like it may have been shot during an actual meteor shower as the Earth passed.
Yeah, that's what it says, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, see, we didn't read the description, see?
Yeah. This is a composite featuring the Milky Way and Perseids from a 6-hour time lapse.
6-hour time lapse. That's crazy. I love that. But yeah, I mean, I dig it. I'm a big fan of these kinds of shots. And like I said before, every time I look at a Milky Way type shot, I'm just in awe that we can do that. And then the science nerd in my brain kicks in and I get depressed because I know many of those stars and galaxies that we're looking at are gone now. And we're just seeing the remnants of their light, that's just now reaching the Earth. But no, I dig this. Do you have any thoughts on this one, since you have done this kind of photography before, right?
Not a whole lot. I mean, you've got everything you said is very accurate. I would bring down the mid shadow black point a little bit, so that the sky itself in between the stars and the meteors and stuff goes a little bit darker, and it'll reduce some of that noise and increase some of the saturation in the sky. Mm-hmm. You've already got that silhouette of the foreground, so you can afford to push that down just a little bit without really losing the Milky Way itself. But that's a nitpick. I mean, this is an exceptionally well handled image, and the composition's really nice. Maybe a little too much space on the right hand side, only slightly. I feel like it'd be nice if that Joshua tree was a little bit more off center. Mm-hmm. But again, that's just nitpicking. And as far as the composition goes for a time lapse and stuff, that's fantastic. That's really neat.
Yeah, no, this is really cool. I want to see the video from this. If there's a time,
there's a link. You got to read the description. There's a link right there.
Let me see if I can bring that up. See? We got to start reading these descriptions. Okay, I'm bringing up the time lapse. I'm going to play that real quick. Perseids meteor shower, just like I said, magical night in Joshua tree. Boom. All right, so let me play this. Wow, look at that. spells her name the same way and makes us call her Kay.
No, I think it means water. Oh, that is nice. Nicely done.
All right.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, see, because he's doing a pan during the time lapse, so that's why it's he picked that particular frame. I know these areas well. I love Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree's great to go out there in a full moon and walk around and photograph all the aliens. It's very eerie.
I'm telling you, they move. Cool. You go there one night, they're all in one position. The next night, they're somewhere else. I'm telling you, those guys
they're like weeping angels.
Lovely, cool. All right, well, thank you, Kai, for that shot. And we played a video. That's the first time playing a video in one of these critiques.
Yeah, it is.
All right, next one is from Craig Stampley. I'm not going to read all of that, but he says, a weekend took part in Canon's Light Awards 24-hour challenge. The following is the brief. So if you want to read the brief they were given, that's on TWiP Pro, but we're going to critique this image without all that because it'll take too long to read that. All right, what do you think?
I think it's really great. Him and I chatted about this image a little bit in the notes. So I already had seen this image. I dig it. It's really neat. It's really abstract in the sense that you got this trash can. You don't know why it's knocked over. The yellow lid is a nice draw. The disappearing trail that goes back into the woods there a little bit.
Yeah.
If this were my image, I would probably burn that lower half in just a little bit, just to sort of equalize that tone and keep you from trying to go out of the frame, but not too much. And then I know that he had limited editing time or what he was allowed to do to this image, but I would probably open up the shadow area in the far back end of the road just to give me a secondary point of reference. But as far as composition and handling the image and everything really well, I like it. This is one of those kind of images that in my catalog I would give it a 5-star, which means it's one of my favorites. It's something I always want to go back to, and I would be proud of it. I like it.
I like it too, yeah. And for some reason, aside from the yellow lid on that trash can, I was like, I 100% thought you were going to say you want this in black and white.
No,
there's a cypress in here. Come on. No?
Oh, I'm getting such a bad rap.
You are. The man who loves black and white photography.
But if you were to make it black and white, you could pick the yellow channel and make it brighter, so then the lid would go highlight.
I knew you were thinking
it would
that.
Still work.
I knew that was in your head. I knew it was in your head. I knew it, 100%. Well, nothing wrong with that. But, what's in my head when I look at images now because of you, Troy Miller, is does having color add to the image, right? And if it doesn't, experiment with taking it out. So looking at this image, my brain instantly goes there. Does color add to this one? And I think it does in a lot of ways because, I look at this image and I'm thinking, yeah, I like the pop of the yellow, like you said. I like the sort of tension of the trash can laying down because when we see that, most of us want to fix it, right? And then the sort of mystery of where is that path going in those trees. And I know there's places like this in upstate New York where we used to live. There's a lot of places like this, and I know that sort of smell of nature that's out there and the crickets that you hear in the background and all kinds of weird things out there, And I think the foliage adds to that feeling. If it was black and white, I think some of that would be lost. I don't know. What do you think?
Right. No.
You don't agree?
No.
You just think it's black and white.
It would be fine.
You're like, I'm not saying anything else now. I'm not saying... Don't be gun shy, Troy Miller. Come on, man. All right. Well, cool. Thank you, Craig Stampley.
Every image works black and white.
Thank you, Craig Stampley. All right. So we're going to move on to another Craig Stampley shot. This is Riley Jade on the beach. And he's doing another shoot with Riley, this time up in Noosa. I assume that's Australia. But this shot, let's bring it up here.
It says in the description, and no black and white because the soft colors work so much better.
See, I think somebody on the show is getting a reputation. I don't know. All right, I like. Is my turn on this one, or your turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. Yeah.
Okay, I like this image a lot. I mean, I like the first of all, when I look at it, if I sort of like visually in my head do a content aware fill and remove the model from the image, I like the shot even without the model in there. I mean, it's this very stereotypical sort of Australian or Californian or wherever beach shot with a pristine beach, and she's sitting on there, and the waves are coming in. I love the color of the waves, I love the color of the sky. So I love the layers, and when you put her back in there, where my brain instantly goes? Like, how did she get there? Like, where are the footprints? Did he let her sit there and get wet so that the ocean could wash the footprints away, or did he clone them out? That's where my brain went. Is like, did he lower her in there with a crane? Like, how did she get into that spot? But I like the shot. I like the mystery of not seeing the model's face and kind of wondering what she's thinking as she looks out over the ocean there. I love the tension of the water just barely touching her pointed toe. Both of her feet are pointed, so she's kind of in that sort of ballet model pose. And I love that he captured it right when the water is lapping up to get that shot, which makes it all the more impressive that there are no footprints in here. So I'm guessing he cloned them out. And I dig it. I dig it. What do you think?
No, I love it. The only suggestion that I would make to this, or what would sort of like irks me, well, maybe that's not a fair word, but is her arm position seems very uncomfortable, directly behind her like that. And I wish that her arm was extending to camera left. And she was maybe, just had it just resting there as opposed to like really leaning on it. But, this may be more spontaneous, and it's not offensive. I mean, I don't mind it there, but I think about like the flow of the model and the body. Because if she had her body leaning a little bit to the right and then her arm resting a little bit to the left, you would see a little bit more of her leg. And, that way the pose would feel a little bit more natural.
Yeah.
Maybe she could be holding on to a piece of that fabric and just sort of playing with it, but that's just that arm. Everything else is spectacular.
Well, what do you think about a shot like this? Because we have a lot of photographers in the community that shoot artistic nudes. What do you think about a shot like this? Does clothing add to the shot, the mystery, or would this be better? A shot like this be better nude with her not having that blouse on? What do you think?
I don't think it'd be better or worse. I think it's just a particular style. I mean, if you're going for a nude look, obviously, right, without the blouse, but let's say that you're doing this as a senior portrait session or a commercial shoot for a vacation. I mean, but they have different purposes, right? Sure, so it depends on what you want to fill your portfolio with. I don't see it as a change. I see it just as which best fits the style that you need for your portfolio. The style and the narrative
that photographers do.
Yeah, this would certainly work with any number of styles of work, from kids to you name it. This particular composition and lighting and timing and everything would work.
Yeah. And just for the record, both of us, as well as TWiP, etc., do not condone doing nudity at any senior portrait sessions at all. Don't go there. Don't do that. All right.
Yeah, well, cool. Fair disclaimer, yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Craig Stampley. All right. So moving on, this next one is from Kyle Nishioka. He's at Dragon Con this weekend, and here's one of his first attempts at using a ring flash as it was intended. Interesting. All right. He says he normally uses them as small off-camera softboxes, but he wanted to shoot something with a lighter setup. Wow, Dragon Con. All right, what do you think?
Yeah,
I don't even know what Dragon Con is, but looks fun.
It's like their Wasteland. It's like another big convention and stuff. It's like
is it like a Burning Man type thing?
I don't know. I haven't been to this one, but there's a lot of these type of events that go on in the gaming community or the Wasteland community, or
Okay.
Yeah. I've never heard of Dragon Con, but cool outfits. Yeah, it's really neat. It's a really neat timing. I like what he's doing there. It kind of reminds me of our F64 event where we had all of our Wasteland models.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. They put a lot of time into these things, so this is really cool. My only critique, my only suggestion is that, when you're using a ring flash or anything that's directly centered with the lens, is you get really flat light. Yeah. And you don't get to see the texture in all of this stuff that he's doing here. Now, granted, you want an easy lighting system. I get it. I'm all for that. So with that in mind, try underexposing that background a little bit more. Put him in a darker space so that it becomes a harsher type of light, if you know what I mean, so that you're not balancing with the background. And I think that'll help. I think that'll add more drama and depth to this image, because it's a little flat in where your eyes want to wander around. You got bright spots in the back,
Yeah.
And ring flashes are tough with that.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and steal some of your thunder and say that this shot in particular, especially with this sort of post-apocalyptic weird costume look, if he had incorporated your idea of like sort of letting the background go a little bit darker and therefore making the subject pop out a little bit, I think this one in black and white would have been killer. I literally wanted to see this in sort of a black and white shot, because then it's less about the other stuff, and then I feel like I'd be drawn more into his sort of crazy face, those crazy "I'm going to kill you in a second" eyes and the beer and all that stuff. Yeah, but I think that the green LEDs in his outfit, maybe that's important to the outfit too, so you got to consider that. But yeah, this is an image that I would grunge up a little bit. I would push the blacks. I would dodge the background. I mean, I would really push it to a much more graphical style of edit. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking at his rib cage down there at the bottom. That is, I don't know what's going on there. That does not look like it feels good.
I know.
I'm thinking hopefully that's just a pose and not from some burritos he had the night before, but that is it looks like, alien about to pop out of there or something. But,
yeah. Cool shot, Kyle, though. Very cool shot.
Very cool. Kyle's showing his range again. I love it. Yeah. All right, bring us back on the screen. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Iraxo Pichel. All right, this is part of he's doing this ongoing project. He keeps working on his project. His image is Cyclistas in Madrid, 34, one of his favorites because of the contrast between the car and the bike. All right, I'm going to bring this up. All right, so it looks like it's my turn on this one. So just a few comments. So first of all, selective color. Selective color is one of those techniques that is polarizing, much like HDR. When you push HDR too far and it gets crunchy or whatever. Some people love it, some people hate it. When used properly, I think it's okay. I'm not sure if it's adding much to this image. Like, what is it telling me that, okay, this writer's arms and legs are in color and the woman in the background is in color? Is it, as the artist, Iraxo, as the artist, are you trying to tell me that he's going to meet her, therefore I should pay specific attention to those two elements? It's not clear on what those are. So that's the first thing that got me. I think it probably, in my opinion, would have been more effective if the whole thing was just black and white, and you'd done the edit to draw attention to the cyclist, burn down the background a little bit more. If she's not important, if the woman is not important, just leave her out of it altogether. And that's it. I mean, I'm a fan of the series because I know, and many times on the show we talk about, this shot is great, but it would be great as part of a series. And this is part of a series. So he's doing a series of images with these cyclists around Madrid, and this is one of many. So I really dig it, and I really want to see the whole body of work when it's done. What say you, Troy Miller?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, the selective color, and I hope it doesn't offend anybody, but the selective color to me is it's more of a distraction and a put off than it is assisting this image in telling a story. So I'm very intentional in the fact that if it's not going to add to the image, then I leave it out. Now, when I first saw this, I thought, ooh, this would be cool if the woman was the only thing that had color. See, because then out of the whole image, it would draw my attention there, and then I would wonder, like, like, why do you want me to look at the woman in the background? Why is that important?
Yeah, right.
But just this guy's legs and arms, you know, and maybe it's just we're not just understanding his message, you know, properly or whatever. But I do think it's fantastic that I get to see Madrid from all these different angles through his imagery, and I think it's fantastic that he's doing this.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic when people do these ongoing self projects, you know, that end up in a nice little body of work and take you on these sort of side journeys that you never would have gone on before, and you start seeing things that you didn't even realize were there before because your brain is now tuned to see these sorts of things. Like you know, you're sitting in a corner cafe and you see a cyclist. You're like, oh, I gotta go get that. That's part of my Madrid cyclist project. So, no, I dig it. Very cool.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing his new images when they come up. You know, seeing what else he has. So,
all right, here's another one from member Joe Jordan. He calls this one "Always Waiting." I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, I just love this image. I mean, I've been looking at it a little bit, you know, while we were talking about the other one, just to kind of absorb it, and I really don't have anything that I would change in this. I mean, I love the treatment. I love the grain. I love how this person's sitting there looking at their phone. I'm assuming there's, you know, the map is actually highlighted, which I love that that's the primary focus in the image and that person sitting there is the secondary focus. Mm-hmm. You know, oftentimes we're like, oh, you got to show the person. But this is fantastic. This is such an amazing storytelling, such a great street image. I think everybody can sort of pour their own interpretation into this, and everybody's kind of happy with what story they come out of it. So I think it's exceptionally well done.
Yeah, I agree too. This is quintessential street photography right here, right? Capturing emotion in black and white. All right, Joe Jordan, thank you very much for that, and welcome to the TWiP Pro community, man. It's good to have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here's one from our buddy Tim Engel. It's always messing with the bell curve. All right. So I'll start off on this one. I want to get your thoughts on this one as well. So this one, I know Tim personally, and I love his work. Tim is one of those artists that just vomits out creativity and doesn't even know it, and he knows exactly what he's doing because it's part of his muscle memory on how to do these kinds of shots. So I love this shot. I love the sort of pose of this woman who's kind of in that S. I see an S curve in there. I don't like that her elbow is cut off on the side.
Ditto.
Yeah, it's not egregious, but I mean, just moving over a little bit just so that you capture all of her in there would have solved that. I love that she's nude and she's hiding herself because I love the suggestion of nudity versus overt nudity. I think that is much more tasteful in these kinds of shots. Exposure-wise, sure, you and I were talking about exposure, and when I first looked at this one, I was thinking Tim is shooting, you know, this is underexposed by like an eighth of a stop or a quarter of a stop or something because it seems low contrast. And then you schooled me and let me know that this is the look that likely Tim was going for. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean it's a very softly lit portrait, and I think that Tim would have done this on purpose. I mean, I've seen this style before, and it's, you know, not having, you know, pushy highlights, which tends to speak to fashion. You know, fashion has really specular highlights and things like that. You know, this is very much more emotional and abstract and ethereal, and I think the soft light sort of speaks to that. I mean, if we look at things that are lit in a room in an evening with a candle or whatever, they're soft light. We don't have high specular lights. Mm-hmm. So this is sort of that style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I'm totally okay with it. I do wish in this image that there was a little more dodging and burning that was done, so that her face was the primary highlight, her arm would be maybe a secondary highlight, so a little bit darker, and then her shoulders would come down, you know, so that we had like 3 points that we would land on. But that's just sort of that final darkroom nitpick, like fine tuning stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were saying this style is kind of like a Mapplethorpe kind of look, right? With that sort of muted.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it makes me think of that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it definitely goes away from, the Ansel Adams zone system style where you got to have perfect whites and then every tone in between, and that sort of contrasty look, which I prefer, but I love the mood of this, and I think it's intentional. It's very, very well handled.
Yeah, love the pose and everything. Good job. Tim Engel. All right, moving on. Craig Stampley, a self-portrait. We actually get to see Craig Stampley here. Kind of. All right. Okay, so let me start on this one. This one is killer. What a killer self-portrait. So he's looking. Does he have any description in here of what's going on? Nope, just self-portrait.
No, it just says self-portrait.
Just self-portrait. I dig it. I love it. I love the symmetry. I love the fact that he's obscured and yet it's still a self-portrait. So it's not a selfie. It is a selfie, but it's not a selfie. I love the geometric patterns that he found to do this shot in, and the attention to detail on the just making sure the symmetry was there, because you look at the handles on the left and right of the frame, and you can tell that's intentional, either in the crop or in the shot itself. So that's really cool. I dig that. It's very simple, and he's like moving behind this grate a little bit. So this was a longer exposure. And he looks like Jason from Friday the 13th back there. Like he's waiting for those, like he's in the elevator, he's waiting on the doors to open so he can come get you or something. But it's cool. And I also like the fact that, I mean, that's a tripod in front of him, obviously, and he's shooting the shot in there. I think it's really cool that he took the effort to get the shot, and he saw it and he's like, I got to get that. Set up a tripod, did the exposure and everything, and then post-processed it and then posted it. So yeah, I'm a fan. What do you say, Troy?
Yeah, I think more than all of that, there are elements in here that I just absolutely love. And one, all of the graphical elements, the hardware, we'll call it, that's all balanced.
Yeah.
Right, and I love that. And it almost feels like it's been mirrored, but I'm looking, and if it's been mirrored,
it's not. I was thinking that
but I don't
too,
think it has,
because the tripod is in there. You got the three legs of the tripod telling you that it's not mirrored, right? So.
Yeah. But then you step inside, and then you have this person. Now the person, Craig, is organic. Yeah. And what I mean by that is his feet are not perfectly symmetry, right? They're not perfectly symmetrical. His hands are slightly different.
Yeah.
One has a little blur, one is a little more open than the other. The tripod isn't symmetrical, even though he's standing in a symmetrical way. And I think these are the type of elements that play on our brain in a way that just feed us, and we can play in this and stay in this moment for a long time. And that's why, like, if we go back to the bikes with the selective color, they become distracting elements, right? As opposed to organic flow that our brain can chew on and go, ooh, I get that.
Yeah.
So I think, and then of course everything in here is monochromatic except for his shoes with the red laces, basically.
Yeah.
And the skin tone.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, I think that two enthusiastic thumbs up for this one.
Yeah, I dig it. I also like the reflections that look like they're coming out of his head, behind his head, at the top.
The horizontal.
Yeah, the horizontal ones. Yeah, that looks really cool.
Yeah,
good job.
Yeah, this could be like a movie poster for some crazy future photographer that he goes in there and he takes this photo and he comes out at another time, and
I like it. Yeah, exactly. Jason, the time traveler.
We're so demented. Good job, Craig. I really dig that.
I love it too. I love it. Good job, man. All right, so moving on. Matthew Moore, he shot this wild shot in Lee Vining, California with a Canon A2 24-72 shot at f8 with film, Kintamir 400 black and white 35 millimeter film. Look at this one.
Yep. Yeah, Matthew's our film guy. Matthew shoots a lot of film.
Yeah, look at that. So that grain is not an Instagram filter, ladies and gentlemen. That is real.
Yeah.
That's real grain in there. Look at that. What do you think of this?
I really like it. I really do. I'm assuming that this was, obviously scanned and then put in here. So I would just bring the black point down a little bit. I think that it's a little bit flat, but only because I really think that the grainy black and white film style, I think that the black point should be in the zone system, especially if we're hearkening back to film. That's just my personal preference.
Yeah.
And then I get an immense amount of anxiety seeing all those dust spots. Yeah. Because we used to have to go in with our brush and touch all those on every print.
That's half a day of work right there. Just like
yeah,
and it still would never be perfect. I mean, the better you were.
How many copies?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need 30 copies of that.
Yeah.
This brings me back to film for that very purpose, and for I think we're very spoiled these days with the resolution of today's cameras, right? The resolving power of today's cameras just beats film into the ground, if that's the look you're going for. And in that case, you look at this, you look at the sort of, it's a little soft, it's a little sort of grainy, and the eagle or the bird in the sky is not tack sharp, but it's kind of sharp. That's film. That is definitely film, and we're used to birders out there shooting with these amazingly crisp, long lenses and 900 megapixel sensors where you could zoom in and see the DNA on the feathers of that bird. But in film, that thing's going to fall apart as soon as you zoom in, 100%. So I love that. I mean, film is romantic. I am not a film shooter because I think, when you have to shoot, we had to shoot film. It wasn't a choice.
Again. I'll never go back.
No, I don't want to go back to film. No horse and buggies, no film.
No, I would just suggest to Matthew that you maybe crop up from the bottom a little bit. I don't think you need all of that. I think that if you remove maybe the bottom third, it would bring more focus to the mountain range and the bird. I think that would be fantastic. And then maybe just clean up those white dust spots in the sky, because they're legitimately distracting, whether it's film or not. Other than that, I think it's great, and a big high five and a fist bump to you for shooting film. And I love it. I love seeing your work, and I have a lot of respect for it because I did it for way too long. So
yeah, likewise, ditto everything this guy said right there. All right, we're in the home stretch here. Thank you, Matthew Moore, for that. Next up is Mark Harris. We skipped this one last week, so I asked him to repost it so that we could cover it this week. And let me read this real quick. Okay, this is part of his body abstract series shot with the D850, your camera, Troy, with his Zeiss 50mm f1.4 at 771 ISO 6400, 1/320th of a second with ice lights and barn doors, my favorite lights. All right, let's bring this up. Look at that. I dig these landscapes, these bodyscapes like this, because as humans, we know that this is skin. We know skin when we see it because we see it every day. So we know what skin is, but when you have a shot like this, it makes you think about, okay, I know this is skin, but where? Where?
I think I know.
I'm not. I think it might be the sternum of a person. I'm not 100% sure where this is, but that's part of the beauty of it, because it's just a sliver of light, like you said, with the ice lights with the barn doors, and he controlled the light to just fall right in that area. And, it's obviously completely dark on the top, completely dark on the bottom. I think what we said in one show was, I want to see a little person walking through there, like in sand dunes or something.
You said that.
I probably did.
You said that.
I probably did say that. And I still stick by it. I want to see a person sitting on one of those sort of mounds there with a lawn chair and a beer.
It's corny. It's just too corny. I vote no.
Come on, man. Come on.
No.
Or a hatch opening up and a stairway leading down, into like a bomb shelter kind of thing, No, what do you think? I love this shot. I love these kinds of shots, though. But I'm kind of biased.
I do. No, I think it's exceptionally well handled. I don't even want to know what body part it is. And I think that the way that he photographed this, or the way that it's handled, Mark, is fantastic, that we don't know. I also love the negative space that's given it at the top. I would suggest, though, that instead of having it buried at the bottom, maybe put it at the lower 25%, right? Like leave more space at the top, but a little bit more at the bottom than what you have now. I think that would help bring it up a bit, because it would give it more of a foundation. That's just preference, and I wouldn't know until I played with it myself, but that's sort of my initial thought. But aside from that, shallow depth of field, awesome. Focus across the plane, left and right, awesome, very well handled. And the lighting exposure, that kind of thing, is very, very well handled, very well balanced, very intentional. I love images that show intention.
Yeah.
So this fits that. This would do really well in competition, in any of our competitions. My next
question with this place in the image comp. Yeah.
Yep.
It would. Cool.
Yeah, this would probably score high 80s, at least high 80s. And if it didn't go higher, it would be for nitpicky things like balance and mounting, or presentation, little things like that. Maybe a little bit more depth of field, maybe not so mushy in the back, maybe a little bit less a little bit more in focus than it is now, less than the front. Little things like that judges may nitpick on, but
that's when you're submitting this for a competition to normal mortals. This is magic. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah. That's well said. Yeah, it's absolutely true. No, it's absolutely true.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Moving right along. Next one up is from Mike Doran. He said this image was created during the AMA Superbike Series at Sears Point 12 years ago. Enjoy. Okay. Very cool. All right. 12 years ago. What do you think about this one?
I love it. I mean, I want to know what camera he shot on 12 years ago. That would be interesting to know.
I'm gonna go with a 10D.
It holds up, though.
I'm going with a Canon 10D or something.
Yeah, it could be 10D or like a Nikon 1DX or something, or D1X. No, I love it. I mean, good composition, good leading lines. He's coming into the frame. I like that the horizontal of the black top there, and then the line that would be the edge of the road is fairly well balanced. I mean, it gives us nice parameters and shows us the extreme of it. The wheels have a little bit of blur in them, so that shows us some speed. I think it's really, really well handled. I wish the dust spot on the right was gone.
Oh, there's several in here. Yeah, I was going to call those out. Yeah, there's a bunch in here that could have easily been zapped in whatever tool post-processing choice you use. But yeah, I would have taken those out. And I agree with everything you say about the image itself. And I do want to know when this was shot, or not when it was shot, but what it was shot with. The camera and lens combination for 12 years ago, because that back before you could just aim your phone at not to simplify motorsports, because I've never shot motorsports, and I know people who have, like Stephen Sharf, etc.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's not easy. It is definitely not easy, and to have been shooting way back when, like many of these guys. And to be rejoicing in the hardware that they have today to get these shots, says a whole lot. So I'm very curious, Mike, as to how you shot this and what you shot it with.
Yeah, to get a good shot like this back then just raises the bar for guys shooting today. This shouldn't be as hard to get today. Focus tracking and shutter speed and just frame rate alone. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, and resolution. I mean, just overall resolution.
And resolution, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Good. All right. And I think there's another one. And let me reload my screen here real quick.
Yep, it popped in 29 minutes ago, so.
Aha. Okay, let's sort by date created. Okay, from Gavin Steiner. Look at that. Yeah. All right. So he said this was a fun shot with the sun behind April to get lots of glow and halo. Pulled out the off-camera flash to light her front. Really happy with the results of off-camera flash. This was a Canon EOS Rebel T6i. All right, let's bring it up full screen here. Let's both critique this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, off-camera flash is one of my favorite techniques for using in any portrait situation to give it a little bit of a different look. I like the fact that the lighting that he's using is a little bit harsher. Like, she's beautiful, soft facial features. I love the cool color hair, the outfit, everything. And so the harsh light works for me. I like that. I'm not a big fan of carrying around big umbrellas and stuff. So I always use like a direct light. The graphical elements of the background, the composition in the image, all of those things are very well done, very good intention. Her expression, there's light in her eyes. Mm-hmm. I really don't have a lot to add to this. I mean, maybe some dodging and burning, bringing the highlights on her face down a tad, because they look like a little overexposed on her cheeks. Mm-hmm. Okay with the background being overexposed. I like it. I think this would do really well. It's good where it's at.
Yeah, I agree. I like the look of this as well. I like the fact that the light is sort of bleeding over from the background onto her neck on the side there, and it sort of adds to that intentional, I meant to do this kind of look. You very rarely see a really bright, overpowering background in a portrait like this, right? So that's sort of for me. It's instantly interesting. It's like, okay, normally the back, like we talk about on the show, it's out of focus, blurred, and subdued. This one is out of focus, blurred, and with tonal values that are brighter than the subject. But it still works somehow. So
right, yeah. There's enough contrast in this image that we know immediately what the subject is, and this speaks good to the image, because if she was really small in the frame, even if you lit her, you would lose her because the background would be the dominating percentage of what we're seeing. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. She is a really large percentage of this image, so therefore the competing highlights are okay. We know what you want us to look at. We know what the subject is, and that's good. Our brains love that. Like, okay, I'm looking at her. This is what you want me to look. A little smile. Yep. So all that works in there.
Yep, I love it. Very cool. I'm glad he snuck this one in under the wire. We got a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I think that's it. I think we've gone through all the images. Look at that.
Is that like 19 or 17 or something?
Like a gazillion. Look at all these. I love it. I love it that people are posting and enjoying TWiP Pro, especially the photo critique area. I'm going to switch the camera back to us. I've gotten lots of comments from people on how much they enjoy the critiques that we're doing. So, I think we got to keep going. What do you think?
Good. Yeah, I like it. Well, I am constantly humbled that I get to do this and that anybody wants to hear my opinion. So it's fun to be here, and I hope it's constructive enough that inspires everybody to go shoot and create more and challenge each other, because that's really what we need to do, right? We just need to raise the bar for all of us, every one of us.
Yeah.
Except Tim Engel. Like, he can just stay right there.
Tim Engel needs to just sit down, Tim Engel and that Peter guy,
The Peter guy, I know. I'm not helping him pick images anymore.
I know. Peter, these people with too many superpowers playing with us mortals, so that's cool. Well, I'm also honored to be hosting this and chatting along with you on this. I love your insights. I learn something every single show that we do from you. Even along the lines of I should be shooting more black and white.
We need to get one of your Panasonics converted to infrared. That's what we need.
I know. I'm gonna do that. I mean, I keep threatening to do that, but I really am honestly gonna do that. One of them. I gotta pick one. It's like picking one of your kids. Like, okay.
You can convert it back. It's not permanent.
Yeah, it's still it's surgery. It's surgery.
I got Sony gear for sale. I got an infrared Sony. I got two of them sitting right there.
Oh, there you go. Because you're gonna be infrared Nikon pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
Love it. Cool, man. All right, well, it's in this. If people want to stalk you and otherwise see the other stuff that you work on during your non-critique times, where should they go?
SpicyJello.com. Same thing on Instagram, and I think most of the links link from there, so that makes it easy.
Yeah, cool. All right, man. Well, that's it for another TWiP Pro critique session. I guess I'll see you next week on this one.
Yes.
All right, man. Cool. Peace. See you later.
This is TWiP.